What's up, beautiful people? Today we're going to be checking out Vivek Ramaswamy's interview after the Republican debate. Let's get to it.
How did you think it went? The overall debate?
I think it was good. I mean, I was pleased with it. I was fluid. I didn't really have much restraint. And I think it's the first time we actually had real conversation between the candidates, but still actually being able to hear one another. So if we're going to set the bar that low, I think it was actually pretty much a success. I think there's some issues that we do need to discuss that we didn't get to in this debate that I think are deep ideological fault lines in the GOP primary. I think free speech is one of those issues.
That was one I was saying before we got started.
Free speech and foreign policy, those are the two big ones.
Free speech is on our list, but everything dies as a result of something else that lives.
We were a little too free with our speech, I think.
Well, but we wanted to let you guys debate. So it's like that's why it's like you have to strike the balance, right? Because otherwise, if we just stay rigid to our questions and get through every single topic, you guys don't get to debate each other.
That's right. And so I think it was a good debate, and I think we do have some ideological divides in the GOP. I think the big ideological divide is, what do you think is America's approach to being the leader of the world? All of us agree that America should be that shining city on a hill. I'm of the view that it should be by being foremost strong at home. I think we have weakened ourselves by fighting these foreign wars in other parts of the world, that as we revealed on that stage tonight, many of them who are clamoring for going after defending some part of Ukraine don't know the first thing about the part of Ukraine they're actually arguing for.
You're right that people are starting to move more and more towards the position that you took early on.
Yeah, and I think it's a form of intellectual fraud on the American people, but I think that's one divide, number one, and then divide number two is, what do you have the right to say in this country? Do you actually have the...
So Zelensky was just in Washington asking for more resources. Should we assume he's against that because he's saying we should develop ourselves first? Does he mean he doesn't want to help other people, other nations? Is that what he's for? Taking the resources to help America and limiting it or cutting it from helping other nations? Is that what he's saying? I'm just trying to understand. So I'm pushing the questions a little more, just pushing it.
The right to engage in heinous speech or not. And I think we have candidates on both sides of that issue, but I'm a free speech absolutist, and I think those are the two main divides.
Well, I wanted to talk to you about that because you and I had our little exchange on Twitter.
I would have loved to have gotten some different opinions, but we can continue that elsewhere as well.
That's exactly right. All right, so let's talk about some of the big moments, because my impression from the debate moderator's seat was Christie came loaded for bear for you.
Yeah, he did.
Right? Were you expecting that?
I didn't really go in one way or another. I kind of got a kick out of it, and my view is that Chris Christie's foreign policy experience is about as thin as it's going to get, and blockading that bridge from New Jersey to New York was, as I said on stage, the best example of it I could think of, and I think that Chris Christie would do this country a favor if he got out of the race, and so I think I didn't hold back in saying so.
Here's a little flavor of what we're talking about. SOT 1.
Let me just say something here. His reasonable peace deal in Ukraine, he made it clear. Give them all the land they've already stolen, promise Putin you'll never put Ukraine in Russia, and then trust Putin not to have a relationship with China. Let me tell you something. That's no reasonable...
That's not my deal. That's not my deal,
yes, it's exactly what you said. You do this at every debate.
I'll tell you exactly what it is.
Don't interrupt me. I didn't interrupt you. Okay? You say this. You do this at every debate. You go out on the stump and you say something. All of us see it on video. We confront you on the debate stage. You say you didn't say it, and then you back away. And I want to say what?
Exactly what I said, Chris.
I'm not done yet.
Well, this
now
is...
look.
Hold on.
And here's
This man is spewing nonsense.
Let me tell you something. This is the fourth debate that you would be voted in the first 20 minutes as the most obnoxious blowhard in America. So shut up for a little while.
Why does it feel like it got really personal there for Chris Christie? It's like the man, he came ready and he brought some personal things.
So he was gunning for you. What was that about? Why? Why you? Why you tonight?
Well, look, I think that he is very frustrated that he's not able to go after Donald Trump. There's two key America First candidates in this race. And as I said, there is a deep ideological divide in the GOP. So I think he's venting his frustration at Trump on me, and I can take it. I can handle the heat, and I responded to him accordingly.
How about the Nikki Haley moment? Nikki corrupt. That was big when you held that up.
Well, I think it is.
What was that about?
The heart of who she is and what she represents. I don't care about Republican versus Democrat. We need to end the corruption in D.C. I don't think you should be able to join the board of a company that you underwrote 9-figure deals while being governor of a state that did deals with that company. I don't think you should use your connections to start a military contracting firm after you leave the UN and then not disclose those clients. She's asked Donald Trump to release his tax returns back in 2016, joining Democrats to do it, yet now hasn't released her tax returns. I've released 20 years of mine. So I do think that Haley is fundamentally an example of the corrupt establishment. Biden has sold off our foreign policy to make their family rich in the form of that bribe to Hunter Biden. I think Nikki Haley's defense contractor is quite likely, if some recent reporting is to be believed, making money off of sales in the Russia-Ukraine war as well. The American people deserve to know that. And I think there's an intellectual fraud here where she professes this foreign policy experience that began in all of a cup of coffee stint at the UN, offering platitudes that were served up by political consultants since the 1980s, yet doesn't know the first thing about the regions she actually even wants us to fight for. And so I think it's an intellectual fraud, I think it's a financial fraud, and I do think that regardless of who leads this country, if you want somebody who's actually going to take on that corruption in DC, you can't be part of it in the first place.
Okay.
So I did want to...
The level of scrutiny that goes into politics, before you get into politics, you must make sure you keep your house in order, because they're going to search. The things you might have forgotten, they'll bring it out on that day. Yeah, Nikki Haley, a lot of people support her, especially on the channel. Some of you really do like her. But he's been able to bring all of this, should I call it allegations, or have they been proven? But he's bringing it up on the public stage, and she didn't respond. I mean, the way she said she was not going to respond was saying, I won't respond, I don't have the time to respond to that. But at some point, we would want to hear her response to this. Like, we would want to know if she actually is corrupt or not, because she wants to be the 001 of America. It's an important position, so we want to know a lot about you, if not everything about you.
Let's speak to that directly tonight.
Let's shift and talk about free speech for 1 minute, because one of the things that we wanted to talk about was what's happening in these campuses. Eliana got to it a bit, and some of the testimony on Capitol Hill. But you and I had a dust up on Twitter the other month, because I understand the opposition to Ron DeSantis trying to disband Students in Justice in Palestine. I get that.
And that's where I'm strongest.
That's
where I'm most strong.
I get it, and I agree. I've said on my show.
I didn't know where you were on that.
Okay. I don't agree with that move. But
because the Constitution.
Yeah.
Yes, there's this thing called the First Amendment. It's kind of pesky.
It's annoying.
And then there's this separate cultural debate that we ought to have that doesn't have to do with the law.
So that's where you and I diverged, because the Students for Justice in Palestine, days after the 10/7 attack, sent this letter saying it's entirely Israel's fault. It's all Israel's fault.
I mean, it's nonsense.
No, and I know you don't support
garbage.
that. But then you had these lots of folks like Bill Ackerman and others who said, I want the name. I want every student who's in that group. And I said, right on, me too. As an employer, I would never hire somebody who signed that letter. And you said, we shouldn't be shaming students. We shouldn't be naming students like that. They're dumb kids.
Yeah.
And my thought is, they're about to go into America's biggest media companies and law firms, right?
So I'd say a couple things. One is very pragmatic in the reality of how college campuses function, and then the other is a cultural point. The way you're a member of a college student group is you actually just put your name on some student group list. Many of these people did not even know they were affiliating themselves with the statement.
But then
so put that to one side, and I know you would probably agree with that.
You'd be like, take me out of that group as soon as you saw them sign that letter.
I think the reality of, this is a really not terribly important point, Megan, but if we're going to talk about it, let's just understand. I know many of those kids, I've talked to many of those kids on those college campuses. They actually have no idea whether they would count as members of the group or not, or whether the leadership of the group is saying something they have no say in actually determining it.
There's a very easy way of making that clear.
Then you have to disavow. Well, take me off your email list.
Yes.
And then it gets to a culture of what we want in our country. Do we want students signing up with groups even they disagree with? I did that when I was in college. And so it gets to the cultural question of not legally what would our founding fathers say, but actually you guys asked me on that debate stage, which president would you take inspiration from? And so let's just go through this.
And the swivel chair.
The original and the swivel chair we're sitting on. He invented it. I don't think Thomas Jefferson would be on the side of saying that we want our universities and institutions of higher ed creating blacklists based on what a 19-year-old kid has or hasn't said.
Not a blacklist. It's
absolutely,
just here's the names.
No, but that's absolutely
the
a blacklist.
UN will hire all those people.
For this one issue. Because then if we do it for this issue, we're going to be doing it for somebody who denied climate change, somebody who questioned the wisdom of using fossil fuels.
I don't think this is the same.
Somebody who claimed that J6 was actually an inside job or not. I think that people should be able to speak their mind freely on these topics. And I think once we go down this road, imagine if this was during the COVID pandemic.
I get it. You're saying slippery slope.
But I think the slippery slope is really part of what these free speech incursions, cultural free speech incursions are all about. If during the COVID pandemic, and I think you and I would probably be on the same side of this, if somebody questioned the safety and efficacy of vaccines, I think you have a lot of people on the other side to say, as an employer, I want to know that. If I'm in the healthcare industry, tell me which student did that because I don't want to hire them.
That's fine. I actually think this could lead to the better alignments with the students and their employers.
I think it leads to students being less likely to discover who they are and what they think.
Okay. right,
and I
last
think that we got
question.
to lead them rather than to censor
talk
them.
to me about your plan, because
Yeah.
your poll numbers have the top guys in your campaign left and went to work for Trump, and there's a lot
I
of
was actually one of the top guys, as a side note,
Okay.
but we brought in
there's
someone
a-
above him, and he moved. But I respect him. I don't want to be throwing
Okay.
people under the bus.
But respectfully, you're not
But
on track to win.
the polls are not on track to where they need to be for me to win this election yet.
Right.
That much
right.
is fair.
Or even win the undercard part of the election. So how long do you stay in this thing? What's the goal at this point?
Oh, I think I'm not going anywhere. And I think to the contrary, I have a responsibility to be in this race as somebody who is taking the America First movement to the next level. I do think we're going to deliver a surprise in Iowa. I think the media has done us a great favor of downplaying our expectations going into Iowa and New Hampshire. We're seeing a lot of people come into our events, like a lot, like not small numbers of people. Like the crowds we're seeing at our events do not match up to the narrative of where the public polling is at.
That's what happened to Trump.
And absolutely. And when you see many of those people at those events, though, many of them are coming with Ron Paul shirts. Many of them are first-time caucus goers. We're actually going to college campuses. I go to frat houses, and they have like massive events where people, I mean, I haven't been a celebrity for much of my life, but if you go to many of those young people, we're seeing something that I think Iowa has not seen for a long time. So if those people come to the caucus, I think we're going to shatter expectations on this, and I think that's going to propel us forward. Exactly.
I love that you
So I
fit
think
some
it's gonna be
frat
successful.
houses in on your busy campaign schedule. Good move.
Hundreds of them, too. And these kids, and that's what I see in these kids is they're lost, but the conservative movement needs to lead them, and I think we can do that.
It's great to see you.
It's good to see you, Megan.
Yeah, all the best to you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Okay, that was a good interview. Let me know what you think about that one. He talked about a lot. I think Vivek Ramaswamy, when he makes a point or when he says something on the media and he knows that is something that might get some wave or some momentum, I think he goes back to rehearse his response when he's asked about it. Because the way he responds is almost automatic, like he knows what he had said and he knows he has an explanation for it. Pretty smart of him, I must say, pretty smart of him. Again, like I always say, I don't know how far he's going to go, if he's going to beat Trump, but maybe, we don't know, fingers crossed. Also, Republican voters are very discreet. I'm going to say that. In 2016, nobody thought Trump was going to win. Then boom, people were so sure. Like when I say nobody thought, I mean people were so sure that Trump was going to lose. Not only didn't we think Trump was going to win, I mean, I was in Nigeria, so I didn't care so much about the election like that. But what we were hearing was he doesn't stand a chance. And then boom, he won. So we never know who might be the front runner eventually, but we'll see. The poll numbers now reflect Donald Trump, but maybe eventually he's going to go in favor of Vivek Ramaswamy, maybe DeSantis, maybe Nikki Haley, Chris Christie. I don't know. I really do not know so much. I don't think. I'm just going to leave it there. I'm not going to comment on that. But let me know what you think. If there's anything you want to add, correct, critique, feel free to do so in the comment section. That being said, have a wonderful day. Peace.